What is art? Well, that's a loaded question. A couple of hundred years ago, it was easily answered with painting, sculpture, printmaking, and maybe architecture. Nowadays, not so much. The 20th century saw so much change that everything was upended, particularly our ideas on art. When I start my art appreciation classes, my first question is, why are you here? It being a dual credit high school class, answers vary from because they put me here to I don't know. My second question is, what is art? Invariably, someone will say everything or anything. My following question is, if anything can be art, what do we study in this class? The light bulb goes off in their heads, and I point out that we can't study everything, so we have to narrow it down. I then ask for ways to define art. I lead them to the definition I have come up with in my years of teaching. There are two things art must be or do to make it art. First, art must be man-made. And second, it must communicate or evoke an emotion or an idea. That's it. But that covers everything. So let's see how we can apply this definition. First, art must be man-made. Sure, the Grand Canyon is beautiful and awe-inspiring, but it was not made by human hands. If you add the word work to create artwork, you will see why natural wonders should not be considered art. An artwork is something created by a person. That's not to say that Mother Nature isn't a terrific artist, but for our purposes, the beauty and wonder of nature doesn't count as art. Second, art must communicate or evoke an idea or an emotion. This is far more complicated than the first requirement, so let's take a deep dive into it. These are images from the caves of Lascaux in southern France. Dated to about 17,000 years ago, these are some of the earliest works of art in existence. These pictures of various types of animals were created over many generations. These animals run across the walls, different kinds, different species, painted by different hands. Why are they there? No way to know for sure. But we know how we feel about them, and we know what they make us think. Perhaps ritualistic or spiritual, these images are of animals that early Homo sapiens hunted for food and warmth. These primitive images are art in every sense. We know what we're looking at, even if they are now extinct. Our primal stirrings tell us we hunted them, that they were of utmost importance to our ancestors. We learn so much about ourselves, our ancestors, and our cultures just by examining them closely and really thinking about what we see. Traditionally, art has told stories. For millennia, this was its most important function, to remind us of our stories, where we come from, where we are going, and what we need to learn. Sculpture, painting, printmaking, all done by artists working their hardest to represent the world around us, mostly in pretty pictures and aesthetically pleasing shapes and colors. That's what art was. Ancient art, medieval art, Renaissance art, right up into the 19th century, art's function was to show us our world, tell us our stories, remind us of our duties and of our ancestors. Art was painting, sculpture, printmaking, and architecture. That's it. So what happened? Why is our definition of art so different now? Well, quite simply, photography happened. Once the artist was free of the necessity of showing life as exactly as it was, he could expand into new areas, new ideas, and new concepts of art. By the early 20th century, artists were exploring the boundaries of what was considered art and going beyond them. Perhaps the most famous of the works that helped us to move on was this work by Marcel Duchamp. By taking a mundane object, and one that wasn't all that socially acceptable to begin with, and painting a few words on it and calling it art, Duchamp broke the boundaries of what was considered art and quite frankly pissed a lot of people off. After Duchamp, a lot of things came to be accepted as art that never would have flown the century before that. Art was no longer about telling stories or showing the real world. It was about ideas and concepts as well. Artists challenged themselves to create works that evoked a reaction from the viewer due to its shocking nature and lack of what we might call artistry. So we come to today where anything can be considered art, right? No, it can't. Here is a chair. It's man-made, and it's very nice. But does it communicate anything to the viewer or user? Aside from that, it might be comfortable. Does it evoke an emotion intrinsic to itself? Sure, you might love the chair because it's real comfy, or because it was grandma's chair, or because it matches your decor so well. But that is not coming from the chair or its creator. Things made to be purely functional are not normally considered art. So let's omit anything that's made to be purely functional. Those items can be placed into the crafts category, and we can leave them for another time. And let's move on. But what happens when we take that purely functional object and transform it? Is this fur-covered cup and saucer art? It's no longer functional, so now we have to look at it as something different. It makes us think and wonder at the nature of the original object. If we can no longer use it for its intended purpose, can we still call it a cup and saucer? By changing its nature, we have to see it in a different way. This is the basis of much modern and contemporary art. If it makes you think or it makes you feel, it's art. But what about this? This recent piece became famous because it literally is a banana duct taped to a wall, and because it fetched $120,000 from the right buyer. As you might expect, many people were dismayed, and some people were downright outraged. It's just a banana taped to a wall. In a few days, the banana will be brown mush. What makes this art? In this case, I have to say that another thing that some art must have to be considered art is an established artist to tell us it is. I guess this is art, but I am unimpressed with the duct tape banana because it doesn't say anything new or unique. Artists have been commenting on the fickle nature of capitalism and the art market for decades, and most of them did it better. So it's art, but is it good art? Well, that's an argument for another time. Okay, so art needs to make us feel or make us think. How does it do that? Well, the artist does it. The artist manipulates images in order to influence the viewer, whether it's to disgust us, make us think, anger us, or make us happy. Yes, the types of images that make people happy do vary from person to person, but the artist is ultimately in control. Now that we have our definitions in place, we can move on to how art can make us happy. Next video, we ask which is more effective, doing art or looking at it. So please like and subscribe, and join me next time.